I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call the Lamar City Council regular meeting for Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 to order. Roll call, please.
Goodchild.
Here.
Wick.
Yes.
Sturgeon.
Here.
Bruns.
Here.
Pick.
Here. Motion to approve the agenda?
Second. Yep. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on, first item B1, hearing for the sale of property, Park Place Estates. The council set this date and time to consider offers received by 12 p.m. on April 30th, 2024 for the sale of Park Place Estates. One offer was received from Acura Healthcare. The offer is attached. I'd like to open the hearing and ask for any written or oral comments. Anybody in the room to comment on that? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing and announce that the time for receiving comments is closed and turn to the council.
Motion to adopt resolution number 2423, authorizing the sale of Park Place Estates to Acura Healthcare for $250,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Bruns.
Yes.
Pick.
Yes.
Goodchild.
Yes.
Wick.
Yes.
Sturgeon.
Yes.
Motion carried. All right. Moving on to B2, Airport Taxiway to New Hangars, another hearing. So at the April 16, 2024 meeting, council set this date and time to hear public comments on plans, specification, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the Airport Taxiway to New Hangars project. There is one private party and a possible second that is prepared to begin building hangars as soon as possible. Proposed schedule, May 15, 2024, bids are due at 11 a.m. May 21, 2024, award. September 2024 to May 2025, construction. I'd like it to open the hearing and ask for comments on this project. Anybody here to comment on the hangar project? Seeing none, I'll close the time for hearing and turn to the council.
Motion to adopt resolution 2424 on plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the airport taxiway to New Hangars.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Goodchild.
Yes.
Sturgeon.
Yes.
Pick.
Yes.
Wick.
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving on to general discussion. Citizens, any citizens in the crowd to address the council?
We do have Leslie Bartholomew and Cody Forge came up here.
Okay.
So good afternoon, Council. Leslie Bartholomew, representing Plywood Trail today, not Wells Enterprises in this case. We know there's been a lot of questions around the trail and drainage and everything. We want to remind you the trail is not open. It's not complete. So our contractor still continues to work on, especially the grading, which has not been conducive with all the rain we've had. So I will let Cody with McClure Engineering tell you a little bit more about plans that we have to make sure citizens understand the trail is closed until we're ready for it, until Goverson Smith turns it over to us, and then to Lamar. So Cody, why don't you go ahead and fill them in a little bit about what's happening.
Sure. Good afternoon, Council. Cody Forge, McClure Engineering. Just wanted to give you a quick update on construction. So the PC work on the project has been completed. We still have final grading operations, erosion control, permanent seating, and signage to install yet before we will accept the project as it is. We're currently over working days, about 29 and a half days over contract as of today. We'll continue to count days as work site allows the contractor to get in and finish the work that needs to be done yet. The signage, as Leslie mentioned, so the trail is closed. The contractor currently has ownership of the project site, and he prefers the site to be closed to cyclists, pedestrians, and general public. So contractor's been requested to put up a barricade to stop people from being on the trail at this point in time until we can accept the project in its final state. I know with some of the rains, there's some drainage concerns, especially towards the south end of the project. Those ditch grades do mirror the existing ditch grade as it was prior to construction. When the DOT constructed 75 back in 1617, those ditch grades that were proposed were established with our project. The ditch grading just has not been completed to a satisfactory manner thus far, which would allow that ditch section to drain. So that's been addressed in a punch list, and so once we get contractor to be back on site, once the site's able to be worked upon, those grades will be established and drainage will be provided. But other than that, we're here to answer any questions, concerns, and
As of today, is a barricade up?
there were the type 3, the kind of TP signs. Site's just been too windy, so we're gonna try to get out and put up some more permanent snow fence type
And
barricades.
where is that gonna be placed?
So they go at the beginning and ends. There'd be one down by Merrill and then one up by NIPCO at C38.
And they did have like yellow caution tape on the bridge to try to keep people off, but that just blew away. So the bridge will have not the ability to go over. Any other questions?
Yeah, you had some barricades on the gravel road.
Yes,
So that they, yeah, I mean, I saw those.
yeah.
I am not an engineer, and I'm not a surveyor, but I know that there are 3 utility poles that basically are ponds, and the topography of the field, the topography of the highway, to me, a layman, where are you gonna drain? It doesn't look to me like, that's number 1 concern. Number 2 concern is your culverts, and part of that is weather, are 1/4 full of silt. So they couldn't drain if they wanted to drain. Then you go south of Merrill, and the big pond there, once again, for a while, somebody was running a pump trying to pump it out, but it was rolling right back in, so they quit pumping. You're telling me that it's going to drain properly in final grade once, and I understand you got nothing holding it, you got no grass, no nothing, I get that, okay? So I'm not gonna beat you up on a special circumstance, but when I look at those 3 utility poles that have not left water in the last, I don't know, few months, I'm very concerned.
Sure. Yeah, so to address a couple of those, so the siltation in the pipes, that happened pretty early on in the project before the contractor was able to get a silt fence in and get the proper erosion protection in. It's been noted in our punch list that all those culverts need to be jetted out and cleaned out, all the silt replaced that would have crossed the road and things like that. So the power poles, through the design process, the way the DOT right-of-way operates is basically first come, first serve. So with the power poles being the first entity in that corridor, if we wanted those guys to move, it would have been at the payment of city plywood foundation. So through a lot of conversation, we said, let's avoid them and try to just leave them in place. As we dip around those poles, what we do is we get to ditch grade and then we come back out and get out of ditch grade again as we get back on the back slope again. All those profiles are right in line with where the final ditch grade will lay. So when it does rain, there will be water that will overtop the trail at those sections and then continue down into the culvert and leave the site at that point. During the construction, what the contractor did, means and methods, as he cored that trail out to get to grade, those spoils ended up in the ditch section. And so they, for lack of better terms, created a dam. Those spoils were never removed through the construction process. They will be with final grading. But then at that point, we expect that ditch profile to be reestablished and positive drainage to be resumed.
And I want to be very clear that I understand it's under construction, so I'm not judging what I see now, I just question part of it. And the second part of the reason that I actually requested some of this was safety. You guys have, I don't know if you're gonna put up stop signs by the housing development, whatever that street is there, but that housing, there's half a dozen houses up there. You have what I'm gonna call safety stop pads on the trail, helping the residents of that. But there's a farmer out there, and I'm on his side. He's driving big equipment in and out, trucks, farm equipment, on a blind corner. Are you guys not intending on putting up caution, yield signs, stop signs, or some damn thing? Because if people decide to blow through them, it's not on him.
Mm-hmm.
I am very concerned about that area.
Sure.
And I would think as a city and being liable, our safety would be very concerned about that area. So,
Yep, so what we do when we install signage, signage has not been installed. There are stop signs that'll be installed at side roads. Basically, every place you have a detectable warning panel, a stop sign will follow. The U.S. Access Board dictates a lot of what we do as far as signage and things like that, as well as municipal, it's MUTCD, I'm not sure what the acronym is off the top of my head, but pedestrians have right of way at residential access. So technically, no stop sign or detectable panel is placed at a residential access. At side roads, there are, and we will provide for those. But if the council would prefer to have stop signs installed, yield signs at residential access, that's something we could pursue.
well, just so you know, if I understood you right, you have those stop pads at the residential, at the houses. Well, they're clearly on the cement. I
Yep.
mean, those stop pads, and I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to.
The detectable panels of raised bumps.
Two little bumps.
Yep,
But
detectable
they're
panels.
at that housing development, but they're not at the farm. And
So-
I already told, just to be clear,
Yeah.
I told the farmer, I don't think it's logical to expect it at every field entrance, okay? But when you have a working entrance, two of them, into a operation, a farm operation, I am concerned about safety. I'm not just trying to pick sides here, but,
Yeah.
so, you're saying if we would determine?
They can be placed at the behest of engineered council at any location desired. The one at Kern, technically that is public access. So we had to install the raised panels and the stop signs at that location.
Public versus private, I get what you're, okay, now
Yeah.
that makes a little, okay, I understand what you're saying. So if I want to push this a little bit, I should have safety committees / safety people go out, evaluate, visit, and come up with it. Because I'm concerned, I think it's a dangerous spot, I do, legitimately.
Yeah.
Clark, it's similar to a sidewalk in the city. You know, you'll have a stop sign at the street, but not at every driveway. And I know what you're saying. I also think there's a safety concern if that farmer uses the area in between as a lane instead of just going out. So we've got to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well,
The
there
entire
again, I
lane
think
should-
it's something that maybe safety should review. Because I'm not gonna sit here and beat a drum, but you're driving big equipment, you're coming in and out. You don't, and he testifies that he came close to a near problem with some bikers. And he said the funny thing was, they all smiled and waved, and he says, they weren't being smart, Alex. He says, they thought, oh, there's a farm. And he said, it was, so,
Was he on his drive or was he on the
I don't
trail?
know, cannot answer that question.
All right.
Cannot answer that question.
Because
but-
the entire trail isn't paved thick enough for his equipment either. so
I
that's
understand that,
another-
but I'm talking about the safety issue, so that's where I'm at on it, okay? So I think it's something that I would like safety to pick up, review with, because if I'm gonna be liable for this, the city of Lamar's is gonna be liable for this trail, then I need to take this very serious.
Yeah. And there's warning placards that we could install, entrance ahead, yield.
I'm sure there are others,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But that's
yeah.
something I would like,
Circling back to the culverts just for a minute, if I may. Obviously, they're gonna finish the job, they're gonna jet out the culverts, and then we're gonna accept the project and the contractor's gonna be done.
Yep.
Do we need to put on our radar now, or when that happens, to recheck those culverts in 6 months or a year? Because we're not gonna have vegetation, we're gonna have more erosion, go right into those culverts again, I assume.
Yep. Yeah, we generally won't accept the project until we have stabilization, whether that be a stabilizing seed crop or a permanent seeding. And at that point, we would hope we mitigate a lot of that erosion activity. But it's something that we will address as we get into our punch list and final closeout activities to ensure those culverts are clean. And we do have some stabilization on site where we don't anticipate more erosion. We could leave up temporary erosion measures, silt vents, things like that at the culverts, that if there were anything between project acceptance and, you know, a couple years down the road, that we could have some sort of a measure for protection if we wanted to in the future too.
Yeah, because on one of them for sure, if not two, you have filter fabric in front.
Yep.
Trying to stop some, I mean, I know a
Yep.
little bit about it, that's what, you know, but is that effective?
It is if it's maintained.
Okay.
We've been unable to get to the site right
It
now.
has been a bear.
Yeah, and that is one of our key items right now, is to get erosion items reinstalled, clean up some of the rilling and gullying that has happened on site, and that's priority number one when we can get some drier conditions.
Because I'll tell you that I'll accept the project, but I want some assurance that, at the time, I will accept it, but I want some assurance that it's working.
Yep.
Nobody can deal with a 100-year flood, and I don't expect it, okay?
Yeah.
But, okay, good enough. All right, thank you for me.
Anybody else have any questions, or?
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Any other citizens here to share info with the city council? All right, moving on to thumbs up award. We'll start with Brad. Do you have any thumbs up awards?
No, not today.
Brian? Clark?
Thumbs up to all the citizens that don't throw their grass into the streets when they mow.
I think of you every time I mow.
That is a pet peeve of mine. I've called Luke and Kevin a few times and said, dang it, anyways.
Yeah, every time I get done, I'm like, oh, I hope Clark didn't drive by in the meantime. I'm gonna get to it. But, all right, I got one quick one, and that's the Lamar's Community Daycare Project Thumbs Up Award to Rich Zitlow, who also received an award from the Alumni Association for the for the Lamar's Community School. But Rich Zitlow and Mark Gall are doing a fantastic job of leading this effort of fundraising and getting the Lamar's Daycare Project off the ground. We are still raising funds, but things are looking very promising, and the enrollment in the daycare is up substantially with a goal of being at capacity by year end, which would be phenomenal increase. So I think we started with 30 kids in January 1, and they're now up to around 116. So
What's capacity?
capacity is 217, something like that.
220.
Yeah. So, Steve.
I have two. First one to the I&A Construction Limited crew, who have been doing the sidewalk and entryway work out to the highway. Their work is noticeable, their work is efficient, and they do one outstanding job getting done what they need to get done. I've been impressed with them. And my second one is to our Willow Creek Golf Course, Brian and their crew out there maintaining the water and hosting the tournaments that they've been hosting recently. Western Iowa, I think there's another one today, but maintaining that and keeping it in the shape it's in so early in the year is commendable. So thumbs up to them.
Good. Mark?
Thumbs up to the 2 firefighters that were promoted today, right before this meeting.
All right, very good. Moving on to consent items. Under consent items, we have an approval of the April 16, 2024 and a regular April 23rd, 2024 special meeting minutes. List of bills for period ending 4/30/2024. Renewal of the liquor license for Archie's Fairway Hy-Vee Tacos La Juanita, and a new 5-day liquor license to the KC's for the 2024 ice cream bash, and an amendment to the Wise Eye Brewing license for an outdoor service area. urban revitalization tax exemption request to close the alley for Wise Eye Brewing Company, request to close the street for Plymouth County cyclists, and an inter-fund transfer resolution. As a reminder, this will take a roll call because of that last resolution.
And that Wise Eye closing is the same as they have done in the past, Chief?
And they do that during ice cream days, the
Yeah.
alley area there, so they get a little more seating.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it doesn't affect the apartments across or nothing? Okay.
They can still get in from the north.
From the north side?
Okay.
Motion approving consent items 1 through 6 with resolution 2425 on number 7.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Pick,
Yes.
Goodchild,
Yes.
Wick,
Yes.
Sturgeon,
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving on to action items. E1, budget amendment. Every year in April, May, administration reviews the fiscal year to date budget to see if a budget amendment is needed. Budget amendments are required by the state of Iowa on program level expenditures that exceed the adopted budget amount. Some common budget amendment expenditures include expenditures relating to receiving an unplanned grant or donation, operating expenditure overages due to unforeseen cost increases, equipment purchases that were unplanned but needed, improvements that were unplanned or had an unforeseen cost increase, capital project expenditures due to unpredictability of timing. Each amended expenditure must have a corresponding explanation of the funding source. Administration recommends council establish a public hearing to hear public comments regarding the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget amendment. And because this is a budget action, we would have roll call.
Motion to establish May 21, 24 at 12 p.m. to hear public comments regarding amendments to the FY 23-24 budget and publishing notice thereof.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, we'll have roll call, please.
Wick,
Yes.
Sturgeon,
Yes.
Pick,
Yes.
Bruns,
Yes.
Goodchild.
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving on to action item E2, water rate ordinance. At the April 16, 2024 meeting, council approved the first